Welcome to the distributed system course. In the previous session, we discussed mutual exclusion in distributed system. Today, we are going to discuss some of the mutual exclusion algorithms in distributed system. We have to achieve mutual exclusion among a collection of processes so as to coordinate their access to shared resources. It is required that a process cannot enter its critical section while another concurrent process is currently executing its critical section. That is, only one process is allowed to execute the critical section at any given instant of time. Or we can say that the action performed by a user on a shared resource must be atomic. In distributed system, we neither have shared memory nor a common physical clock, and therefore we cannot solve mutual exclusion problem using shared variables. To eliminate the mutual exclusion problem in distributed system, we are using message passing. A site in the distributed system do not have a complete information of the state of the system due to the lack of shared memory and a common physical clock. So we can use a simple solution that is centralized one. The system consists of a set of sites out of which we are selecting one of the site as control site. The control site assigned the task of granting permission to enter the critical section. Here you can see there are 4 sites, that is S0, S1 and S2 and S3. Out of these 4 sites, we have selected S3 as the control site. You can select also 0, 1, 2, 3, any of the sites, but we are in our situation we are selecting S3 as the control site. So S3 has assigned the task of granting permission to enter the critical section. So X is the S3 is the coordinator site or control site which have assigned the duty of granting permission to enter the critical section. To request the critical section, the site send a request message to the control site. If whenever a particular sites want to enter the critical section, it sent a request message to the control site. In the figure you can see that the site numbered 1, that is S1, want to enter the critical section, so it send a request message to the control site. Then if the control section, if the critical section is free, then the control site grant permission to enter the critical section to the requested process. The control site queue up the request for the critical session and grant them permission one by one. Then it also maintain a queue. If the critical session is already engaged, then the request is queue up in the queue. Here you can see that the critical site S1 is in the critical section. At the same time, the site S2 is requesting the control site for accessing the critical section. So no reply will be sent. That is, no reply will be sent to the site S2, and the request is queue up in the queue that with a number of the site. Here you can see that the queue contains the request of the site S2 that is stored in that is queue up in the queue. Whenever a particular site exit the critical section, it is send a release message to the control site. So after executing the critical section, the site 1 reply with a release message to the control site. Now the control site can give the access or permission to the requested site S2. So it will take on the request from the queue and send permission to that corresponding site. This method achieve mutual exclusion in distributed system require only 3 messages per critical section. That is one sending message, then giving permission OK message, then release message to perform a critical section in this centralized method. These methods have several drawbacks. The first one is the single point of failure. That is, here all the things are controlled by a single coordinator called control site. So the failure of the control site will lead to the failure of the whole system. Also, load associated with the control site may be a extra work. That is, we are randomly selecting one of the site as the control site. So load associated with the that particular control site may increase. Then the synchronization delay in this particular method is 2t. That is because the site should first request the permission to the control site, and control site should grant permission to enter the critical section. So here the synchronization delay is 2t. It is the transmission time, or we can for the particular message. Then the transmission time become 2t, so the throughput will become 1 by 2t plus e. In the previous session we discussed the throughput is 1 divided by the synchronization delay plus the average critical section execution time. Here the transmission time is doubled, so the throughput will be half of that the previous case. That is about the single method. Here there are a lot of problems in this, so we are going to discuss some other distributed mutual exclusion algorithms. There are some distributed mutual exclusion algorithms that are Lambert's algorithm, Ricard Agarwal algorithm, McCoss algorithm, and Suzuki-Kasami broadcast algorithm. The distributed system has to use some of the distributed mutual exclusion algorithm. The distributed mutual exclusion algorithm must deal with the unpredictable message delay and incomplete knowledge of the system state. First, we will discuss some system model, that is about the system contain. A system consists of n sites, that is numbered as S1, S2, and Sn. We are assuming that a single process is running on each site. That is, we have site S1 to Sn. We are assuming that a single process is running on each site. That is, the process at a site SA is denoted by PA. A site can be in one of the 3 states. That is, each state can be in one of the 3 states. That is, first one is the requesting the critical section state, the executing the critical section state, neither requesting nor executing the critical section. That can be also called as idle state. In requesting the critical section state, the site is blocked and cannot make further request for the critical section. In ideal state, the site is executing outside the critical section. In token-based algorithms, a site can also be in a state where a site holding the token in executing outside the critical section. We can say that ideal token state it in the case of token-based algorithm. At any instant, a site may have several pending requests for critical section. A site queue up these requests and serves them one at a time. Then we are going to discuss one of the distributed mutual exclusion algorithm, that is Lambert's mutual exclusion algorithm. It comes under the approach non-based token base is used in Lambert's mutual exclusion algorithm. It is based on the Lambert's logical clock. Every site SA keep a queue that is named as request queue then the process ID, that is process number, that is I, request I, that is every sites in the system keep a request queue which contains mutual exclusion requests ordered by their timestamp. That is, we are maintaining a queue. In that queue, we will store the mutual exclusion request in the order of the timestamp. We already see that every particular site will following in the three state, that is requesting the critical section, then executing the critical section, then after exiting the critical section. Also here also the Lambert's mutual exclusion algorithm have three parts. That is, first one is the requesting the critical section. When a particular site SI want to enter the critical section, it broadcasts a request message to all the sites and place the same request on request queue I. That is, if a site want to enter the critical section, it broadcasts a message which contains the timestamp of its logical clock and its process number. Here you can see that the request message contains two parts. That is, first one is the timestamp of the site SI and its number, that is I. Then that request is broadcast to all the other sites in the system. Also, it is queue up in the its own request queue. When a site SJ receive the request message from the site SI, place the site SI's request on request queue J and it will return a timestamped reply message to SI. That means when a particular site receive a request from another site, it will store that request on the request queue and it will return a timestamped reply message to the sending site. That is the case. Here there are two receiver site is named as SJ and sending site is named as SI. So the message from SI is stored in the request queue of site SJ. That is about the requesting the critical section. Then the second part is the executing the critical section. A site SI enter the critical section when the two conditions hold. That is the first one. First condition is SI has received message with timestamp larger than particular timestamp from all other sites. That is, it has to receive reply from all the messages, all the sites in the system. Also, its request is at the top of the requested queue. If SI want to enter the critical section, then it should receive reply messages from all the other sites in the system. Also, at the same time, its request must be in the top of the requested queue. Okay, then only it can enter the critical section. It will be more clear when we come to the exam. The third part is releasing the critical section. The site SJ, upon exiting the critical section, remove its request from the top of its requested queue and broadcast a timestamped release message to all other sites. When a site SJ receive release message from site SI, it will remove SI's request from its queue, request queue J. That is, when a particular site exit the critical section, it perform the releasing the critical section action. When then that time it will remove its request from its queue and also broadcast a release message in the message to the other sites in the system. When a site remove a request from its request queue, it won't request may come at the top of the queue, enabling it to enter the critical section. When a particular request is when a particular release message is received by a particular system, then it will remove that request or the sender's request from the queue. On that time, its own request may come at the top of the queue. That may enable a particular node to enter the critical section. Then we can go to one of the example. Here you can see there are three process, or you can say that three sites, S1, S2 and S3. The process first want to enter the critical section is P3. That is, P3 send the request message to all other sites in the system. You can see that so at the time of sending the request, the process 3 queue up its request message in the queue 3. It contains the timestamp and also the process number. So it is based on the logical Lembert's clock algorithms. So the logical time for the event at P3 is 1. That is the first event. So we will timestamp it as 1 and the corresponding process number is P3. You can see that the request message contains two parts. That is, first one is the timestamp. The second one is the process ID or process number. Here the timestamp, it is the first event happened in the system. So the timestamp is 1 and the corresponding process number is P3. So the P3 sent the request message to process 1 and process 2. Then after some time, the second event is happened in the P1. So its timestamp is 2 and the process number is P1. So the P1 also want to enter the critical session. So it send the message to P2 and P3 with a timestamp of 2 and a process number as P1. So the P1 and P2 has the request messages from P1 and P3. So it will sort the request on the basis of timestamp. So P1 get the request from P3. It has to enter the critical session. So it will place the request message in the queue. Also, it has a request message from P3. So it has two request message in the queue from P1 and P3. So it will sort the request based on its timestamp. The message from P3 contains the timestamp of 1 and the message from the request message in the process P3 is timestamped with 2. So it will sort it based on the timestamp. So the message from P3, request message from P3 will come on the top of the queue. It is on the front of the queue. Then the second message, that is from P1. At the same time, the Q2 will also sort the message based on the timestamps. The queue contains P3 on the front of the queue, then P1. At the same time, the particular process P3 contains the two messages in the order of their timestamp. So a particular process can enter its critical session only after receiving a release message, that is a OK message, a reply message from all the other process. So the P1 send a reply to P3 to enter the critical section. At the same time, P2 will send the request message to the P3. Then P2 and P3 send a reply message to P1 also. Now the P1 and P2 receives reply message from all other nodes in the system. Then the second condition to enter the critical section is the particular process request must be in the queue's front. So we can see that the message from P3 is on the top of all the queues because its timestamp is 1. So taking the both condition, only P3 can enter the critical session because its request is on the top of the queue or in the front of the queue, and it get all it receive reply message from all other sites. P1 cannot enter the critical section because it receive all the reply messages from all other sites, but its request is not on the front of the queue. That is the reason P1 cannot enter the critical section at this time. So only P3 can enter the critical section at this time. So P3 will enter the critical section. Then after completing the critical section, it will send the release message to all other sites in the system. So once the release message is received from P3, it will remove that messages from its queue. So the queue of the one will contains only one process message that is from P1, and all other contains its only message from P1. P3 also remove its message from the queue once it is sent or once it complete the critical session. That is about. Now the process P1's queue contains only one message, that is P1 from P1. Queues of process P2 also contain one message from P1, and process P3 queue contains only one message P1. Now the P1 receive reply from all other sites in the system. At the same time, its message is on the front of the queue or front of the queue. So both condition to enter the critical section is satisfied now. So the P1 can enter the critical section now. So P1 will enter the critical section. After completing its critical section, it is sent a release message to all other sites in the system. So upon releasing the after receiving the release message from P1, the sites S1, S2 and P3 and P2 will remove its remove a message which contain the process number P1. So all the queues will be empty at this time. That is about the critical Lembert's algorithm for mutual exclusion. Then it is satisfy the properties, or we can say that requirement for mutual exclusion, because it is satisfy the safety property related to the mutual exclusion. Only one process is at accessing the critical section at the same time. Here we are assigning the critical section based on the timestamp. So no two processes will have the same logical clock, logical values. So we can say that the safety condition is satisfied here. The liveness property deals with the deadlock and starvation. We are taking the based on the timestamp also. There is a fairness also in the system, because we are taking based on the logical clock value. We are allowing the sites enter the critical section based on the logical time value. So if the two processes have the same timestamp, then we will give the chance to the lower process number. So there is no chance of two processes with the same logical clock and the same process number. So only one process can enter the critical section at the same time. So also we are assigning The order in which the particular request is handled is based on the order in which the request messages are arrived. So we can say that fairness is handled here. Coming to the performance metrics of this mutual exclusion algorithm, here the first one is the message complexity. Message complexity deals with the number of messages requested or the number of messages per critical section. So here we use n-1 reply messages to send it to all other nodes, and n-1 reply messages also. After critical section, it will send the n-1 release message. That is, if we a particular process or site want to enter the critical section, it need to send n-1 request if a particular system contains n total sites. That means excluding it, it want to enter the it wants to send the request to all other n-1 requests, all other n-1 sites. Then also there are n-1 replies needed to enter the critical section. After completing the critical section, it will send n-1 release message also. So totally 3 into n-1 messages per critical section is needed for Lambert's mutual exclusion algorithm. Then come to the synchronization delay. It is T, that is the propagation time for a particular message. Then we can optimize the particular system, optimize the particular Lambert's mutual exclusion algorithm by deferring or blocking the reply message when a particular process receives request from a larger number time-stamped process. Here you can see that the process P3 has the lowest timestamp, that is 1. It will receive a message, request message from process P1, which timestamp is 2. So compared to the timestamp of the process P3, the timestamp of P1 is larger. So we can conclude that there is no prior process in the system to enter the critical section other than P3. So we can defer the reply message, message to P1. That is on optimization. So by this we can reduce the number of reply messages. It may be ranging from 0 to n-1. If all the messages can be avoided, reply message can be avoided, then it will be 0 reply message. Or if all the nodes need to send the reply message, then it will become n-1. So the total number of messages per critical section is in between 2n-1, 2 into n-1 to 3 into n-1. The synchronization delay is also the T. Okay, this is about the logical mutual exclusion algorithm. In the next section, we can see another mutual exclusion algorithm, that is Ricard-Agarwal mutual exclusion algorithm. Thank you.